have reached the second chapter of this book. The name of the book is Castes of Mind. It is written by Nicholas Dirks. Now, who recommended this book? I saw one of the interviews of J. Sai Deepak on YouTube where he recommended this book specifically for people who wish to understand this concept of caste. Now, I agree that caste is a very divisive subject because regional and even national politics up to a certain extent is influenced by which caste you belong to, because that is how the voting is done. There will be a leader, a very renowned and a reputed leader of a certain community, and the people of that community will vote that person specifically, regardless of any political party he stands for. Does not matter if he is from the Congress, from the BJP, or any other political party for that matter. They will vote along with the community. They'll vote the person, they'll vote the community. Now, this behavior is not a very recent one. It has always been like this. Even the Brits, when they came here, they are missionaries. Missionaries were people who were converting people. So they are missionaries. They studied this concept of caste. Now you might ask why. Why did the missionaries were studying the subject of caste? Even there are other scholars, Orientalists and Anglicists. So Anglicists were people who were advocating the use of English language or their gospel. In a way, they were here to convert. Orientalists were people, they were also, in a way, they also wanted to convert, but they were slightly respectful of the idea of the Oriental world. Because in their vocabulary, in their world, we are Orientals, meaning from the old world. They are the people from the new world. Alright, fine. So this is chapter number 2. The chapter is titled Homo Hierarchicus, the Origin of an Idea. Now, I'm sure you have come across this word of hierarchy. Hierarchy is a chronological order that is based on either power, authority, resourcefulness, wealth, and so on and so forth. Okay. So when there was this transition from hunter-gatherer people to people who lived in civilized societies, new problems started coming up. So they needed classification of a society. As in, this person belonged to this Varna, this person belongs to this Varna, and these are things that he or she must do. Now, something that is quoted as a problem with this idea is the rigidity. Okay, and we all have experienced this at least once in our life, because we are born into a Varna, but we don't get a say in what Varna we get born. And even after being born in a certain Varna, you're not allowed to escape the bounds of that Varna. Okay, you must stick by the laws of that Varna. You are supposed to abide by the laws of honor. There are certain rituals that you must practice if you are born in a certain Varna, and so on and so forth. So even after being born, you get no choice to escape from that Varna. Now, agreed, it was not always like this. This is obviously years and years and centuries of practice, centuries of experience that has led to the Varna boundaries being rigid. But initially it was not. Okay. Now I want to draw your attention first of all to this word, 3 classes of heathen. Okay. So for all of those people out there who think that the English people or the Brits, they were very noble when they came here. No, they were not. The initial idea of them coming here, was simply conversion. There are documented evidences to showcase this. It is on the internet. If you have not seen it already, I would blame it on your school first of all, because schools are tasked with the responsibility of telling you why the white person came here. And if your school is telling you that the white person came here for the purpose of trade, then they are definitely hiding the truth, because that is not the truth. All right, fine. Now, one thing that I discovered, because like I said, once in your life you might have hated this concept of Varna, because that is what is conditioned inside our head, that it is the Varna system that has led to this depredable situation in our country, meaning the bad situation or the bad situation in which our politics is right now, it is due to the concept of caste. There are people who are discriminated against, and there is only solely the Varna system that is supposed to be blamed for that. Now, I have grown up learning these things. I have grown up hating the Varna system. You might have too, because that is what the dominant narrative in our country propagates. Even the politics, even the scholarship that we have, usually the Varna system is made out to be the enemy. Okay. Now, I was very surprised to learn that these English people, okay, they have written it in their book, in their words, that it was essentially the Varna system that prevented them from converting people. What do you think of that? The principle that so far we have thought of it in a way that something that is an impediment, as a hurdle to national integration, to social justice, and so on, and all those fancy words that come with the English language. But, and I'm going to show you evidences from this book. It is not me making these up. Even Nicholas Dirks, he explicitly accepts that it was indeed the Varna system that was preventing the mass of the people in Bharat to convert to their faith. So something that we, revile, something that we abuse, something that we disparage day in and day out, it was indeed something that glued us together as a nation, and hence we did not convert. So let's see, because there are some things that I've highlighted in this book while reading this chapter. So let's see if it makes any sense to you. Here. Here, this is Dubois, I don't know, he's a French or whatever, okay, was particularly critical of the efforts of early missionaries to use pageantry and festival to attract the Hindus, as the net effect had been to interest only the outcasts or persons left without resources and without connections in society, or among stupid and quite helpless fellows. So initially when the missionaries, they came over here, they obviously tried to convert everyone, all the four Varnas. But with time and with experience, they learned that there was a certain section of the society that was outside the Varna system, and they can be targeted easily. So with time, they realized, okay, we are only able to convert the Panchamas, or the outcasts. Okay, there's a separate discussion altogether to be had about who actually were the Panchamas or who actually were the outcasts. But for those of you who are watching this video, if this is the first time that you're watching my video, Panchamas were the people who were excommunicated from all the four Varnas for whatever n number of reasons. Obviously, there are well laid out rules or well laid out methods in which a person can be excommunicated from his or her Varna. But that is a separate discussion altogether. But the missionaries who came over here, they were easily able to convert only the outcasts. But the people who were outcasts were a small fraction of the population. So they were not happy with their conversion rates. Here he writes, let's read this one. I am persuaded that it is simply and solely due to the distribution of people into castes that India did not lapse into a state of barbarism. Okay. I think if you have studied enough contemporary literature after 1947, there were people who predicted that democracy would not last in this holy land of Bharat. I think Ambedkar was one of them, but we have proven almost all of them incorrect. Yes, we have our own shortcomings as a democracy, but so do other countries who lecture us about our democracy. So it really makes no difference. But here he says that if there were no Varnas, I especially try to not use the word caste because number one, it's not in any of our vernaculars. Obviously, everyone knows it was introduced by the Portuguese. And secondly, if something is not in our vocabulary or of our vernaculars, why use it? Okay, so it was essentially due to castes that we did not lapse into a state of barbarism. Now, what is a state of barbarism? That is lawlessness. Nobody follows any rules. So imagine or picture this. If people did not follow any rules, what would happen on the streets of Bharat? So since there were rules of the laws of the land, laws of honor, laws of the caste, or sorry, laws of the Varna that you belong, that is why we have not spiraled into a state of barbarism. And that she preserved and perfected the arts and sciences of civilization, whilst most other nations of earth remained in the state of barbarism. So I'm not going to comment on what about the other nations and other states, because quite frankly I'm not qualified to. The reason why I read these books, okay, I'm not a history student, okay, I'm an English teacher, I'm also a math teacher. Basically I'm a teacher for all the subjects until grade 12. But the reason why I study these books is because I want to know more about how have the Britishers managed to convince an entire country, such a big country as ours, into things that are blatant lies. All right. Here you see some reference to the Brahmanas. Ordered caste system, Dubois felt that would necessarily fall into a state of hopelessness, anarchy, blah blah blah. Thus it was that Dubois, whatever, believed that a Christian mission was destined to fail if it could convert only untouchables and have no success at all with the Brahmanas. So indeed, yes, they were conscious of the fact that the people who were known as the Brahmanas were the intellectual and the cultural repository. They were the people. They were the ones who the people from other Varna looked up to. So if you are not able to convert them, the others will not follow suit. Because if you see, Brahmanas have been, the social or cultural icons in a society. He had nothing but admiration for blah blah blah. Here it says, so essentially the problem is that what people ended up doing was, what the Christian missionaries in the 17th century, what did they manage to do? It is written over here that they were managed to indeed convert people, but they would still hold on to their cultural beliefs. They will still do that puja in the morning. They would still do that ablutions. They'll offer water to the sun god, and they continue to do these things. And this is what the Catholic Church did not like. Because until and unless you completely let go and abandon all your cultural idiosyncrasies and everything that comes with your culture, your conversion cannot be complete. So yes, even to this very day, if you go to the southern states of Kerala, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka for that matter, people who have chosen to convert, they still hold on to certain cultural traditions. Okay, you cannot divorce culture from yourself, even if you convert. So that is essentially what happened in the Malabar Rites. Okay, there was a famous controversy. The Jesuits had to fall in line with the stated church policy that religious conversion should lead to social conversion as well. So even after converting us, they were not able to get rid of the cultural idiosyncrasies that we have. And that is what they did not like. Now here there is a very interesting line, that is the genius of the caste to protect India, and by implication Hinduism obviously, from foreign influence. The Hindus have often passed beneath the yoke of foreign invaders, whose religion, laws and customs have been very different from their own. Yet all efforts to impose foreign institutions on the people have been futile, and foreign occupation has never dealt more than a feeble blow against the custom. Above all and before all, it was the caste system that protected them. All right. So if you compare these things, okay, there is this. So the world has had two invading forces. One is for Christianity, another one is for Islam. Both of them monotheistic traditions. For both of them, it is a very important part of their faith to spread their word. Okay, the Christians were spreading the gospel, the Muslims were spreading the word of Quran. Okay, for those two people, it was very important to convert others, and they have managed to fairly convert the entire world. You can see the entire world is either divided on either in the Christian side or the Muslim side. But when they came over here, both of them, okay, the Christian conversions and the Muslim conversions, both of them, when they came here, They tried to convert, and the only hurdle or the impediment that they faced was the caste system. Now, why were people so fearsome of the Varna system? Because once when you leave your Varna, the security net, the social security net that comes with belonging to a certain community disappears. And that is essentially what the other side is offering. That is what the Christians and Muslims are offering you. Once when you leave that Varna that you are born into, they will offer you social security, they'll offer you brotherhood, so on and so forth. And this is their people writing. I'm not making these things up. And the reason why I read these things is to get these points across to you, because when I have a discussion with even my students, even adults of my age, they don't know these things. Their brain has been totally indoctrinated with these ideas of liberalism and all the false history and all wrong history that they were taught in school. So you should look at these things. Okay, I'm no history student. I'm not critiquing these words. I'm simply just bringing it to you. Make of this what you will. If you are a history teacher, if you are a history student, maybe you can do a far better research than me. But all I can make out from this is, they could not get past the caste system. So they were very bitter about it. The Christians were very bitter about it because they could not get past the caste system and they were not managed to convert people. Here, fine, these are all not important. Here, he nevertheless held an opinion that became a convention among missionaries that caste was the major impediment to conversion. Here, if there was no caste, we would have converted to wholesale either Christianity or Islam. Yep. So it was indeed the Varna system that we day in and day out abuse that saved our country. Here, now why would somebody not choose to step outside their Varna? Here, all are bound to their present state by caste, and breaking whose chains a man must endure to be renounced and abhorred by their family, wife, children, friends. So once when you renounce, let go or abandon your Varna, there is no that social security net that you had by virtue of belonging to a community that belongs to a Varna. So people were scared that once when I abandon this, I will have no social security to fall back upon. And that is essentially what matters. And to this very day, you see this. People of a certain community, they stick together. Okay. Here, missionaries, they gave the name of devil. So anything that the Christians don't understand and cannot comprehend, they will name it as devil. Missionaries concluded that caste was the most cursed invention of the devil that ever existed. Yep. Missionaries had little success except among the lower castes, fueled their resentment. They were burning with resentment. They were furious that why aren't the people over here accepting the gospel? Because for them it was the truth, it was the revealed truth. But when they came on the holy homeland of Bharat, people weren't really interested in their truth, quite frankly. So they had to offer rice bags. Yeah. Bishop Haber, who said blah blah blah. Here as well, in a resolution made by the Madras Missionary Conference in 1850, it was stated that caste is one of the greatest obstacles to the progress of the gospel. So yes, so the next time you speak ill or bad about caste, remember it is solely because of the Varna system that we have not converted so far. Here, missionaries were obsessed with caste. Obviously, you are obsessed with castes because that is what is preventing you to succeed in converting us. Yep. One more thing that this chapter has brought out is the village. I'm sure there are a handful of urban settlements in Bharat that have developed. It could be Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Calcutta, Delhi, and all these places. All right. So majority of the people, they still live in villages. Okay. And I would really highly recommend you to just go out there and observe. Okay, those people, they don't really need anything because they already have anything. And this is not me saying it, this is this book saying it. The village communities were little republics. Okay, if you've studied the ancient history, as well, you would know that these village republics, they exist, having nearly everything they want within themselves, almost independent of any foreign relations. The village does not need you. Okay, they have everything that they need. There's a mass of such republics, yes. Now, this is something that requires, a little bit more of discussion. If you read this, these communities contain in miniature all the materials of a state. Now, I want you to focus on this word, materials of a state. By state here, they mean a fully functional government sort of a thing, or a governmental arrangement. The materials of a state. What are the materials of a state? Legislative, executive, and judiciary. So when in the 17th and the 18th century, when these missionaries went, okay, what was their trump card? Their trump card was that you guys need emancipation. You are worshipping the devil, and hence our gospel will provide that. But when they went into the village, they already had everything. They said, okay, no, we have our own laws. We have our own executive people. We have our own system of judiciary. We don't need you. Okay, that is what pinched them. Why don't they need this gospel? If indeed the gospel is revealed truth, why don't they need it? So they had to come up with these justifications, and are almost sufficient to protect their members of all governments are withdrawn. Here, nearly everything that they want within themselves, and are almost independent of any foreign relations. Here, I think it's all fine. They're talking about the villages. Sure, this is something that I want to talk about in a little detail. Let me just finish my coffee for this morning. Here, if you read this, histories of places, particularly temples and political families, predominated. The southern landscape that he traversed was dotted with temples that served as convenient reference points for trigonometrical surveying and general route maps, due to tall gopuram towers built over the gateways into temple structures that often served as centers for marketing and defense in addition to worship. Every temple had a history that inscribed the significance of its deity and the ground of the deity's worship with a special past of miracle and power. Now, all those people out there who are millennials, I think Gen Z or all the other successive fancy generations might not understand this, but if you are a millennial, or if you're born in the 1990s, I want you to go back to your summer vacations or any other vacations that you might have had in school. Okay, your parents would always take you to a temple. Meaning, if you are going on a picnic, it is going to a temple. If you're going to travel somewhere, it is going to be a temple. That is how our consciousness works. If we go out somewhere, it is usually to worship, and this was what was practiced in the 17th century. Okay, land records were kept with respect to the temples that existed there. Trigonometrical surveys of land, they were made easy by existence of temples as reference points. Now, a small example of this would be if you use those home delivery apps, Swiggy, Blinkit, Zomato, and all that. When you put in your address, they ask you to mention a landmark. Okay. Now imagine this was in 17th century. So the landmarks that were used were temples, because the consciousness of this country or this nation lies within the temples. That is why temples were used as reference points. Temples were also centers of economic exchange. Whenever there is a festival, all our festivals have certain economic angle attached to it as well. I don't think I need to speak more about this, but since he mentioned this in this book, I had to say it. Okay. Now here, it tells you a lot about the mindset of the white person. Okay. Now whatever they wrote, because all these people, all these English people, when they came from England to this holy homeland, they were indeed very curious about our ways. They were indeed very curious about our social society, our social fabric, so on and so forth. So they studied it. After studying it with their own tinted lenses of enlightenment and so on and so forth, because people usually ignore this. The white person was coming from an age of enlightenment in their world. They had seen a lot of a lot of trouble within the Christianity itself, and even with their own people of the book, that is the Muslims. So after all these clashes, after all these disagreements and problems, they were stepping into our holy homeland, and they were seeing our life, our social society through their tinted lenses. Okay, so they developed a lot of theory. They wrote a lot. Even people who wrote quite in detail, they themselves have not walked on this holy homeland. Shaped a theoretical basis for the liberal program to emancipate people, emancipate India from its own culture. As in, for them, mentally, these missionaries, what were they doing? Okay, they had convinced themselves that if we convert these people, in a sense, we are saving them. Okay, emancipation means you are emancipating somebody from some problem. So you are taking them away from a problem. So inside their head, these missionaries thought that by converting us, okay, they are solving a problem for us, because they perceived the Varna system as a problem. But in effect, if you look at the previous part of this chapters, they themselves have accepted that Varna system was not in fact a problem for us. It was a problem for them. Why? Because they were not able to convert us. So in essence, they were emancipating us for their sake, not for our sake. Here, I mean, defense of his education, blah, 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 English education, so on and so forth. Now here, there are some questions. Are we bound forever to preserve all the enormities of the Hindu system? Have we become the guardians of every monstrous principle and practice which it contains? So in essence, they were looking down upon us. If you read this book, you will know. For people who say that it was indeed the British who got rid of the Varna system, they need to read this book. Okay. Here as well. The Manu text has been trotted out for the last 200 years as the classical statement of the caste system. Yes, the Manav Dharma Shastra that was written, and that is what these people, the English people who came over here, that is what they studied. And yeah, I think in the southern states, Manav Dharma Shastra, that is, they burn it. Okay. As a way to protest. But in fact, it has managed to shield us from these greedy monotheists who are greedy for conversion. And I don't think everything else you might have already seen, because day in and day out here. So I've managed, from tomorrow onwards, I'm going to read from castes and Orientalists. That's it from this part of this chapter number 2. I'll read further more tomorrow and document my learnings then. Thank you for watching.